So let's transition a little bit into work as a gift. Um, Something that I think is very ingrained in West Texas in the Permian Basin is this attitude towards work and working hard and just putting your nose to the grindstone. But there's a way that this is framed within our core beliefs. How would you explain that to somebody?
Well, man, the way I can explain it is best through my own personal experiences. And I know that growing up, I enjoyed working. I started working. Well, what I really enjoyed about working was the fruits of the labor. And when I was probably 13 years old, junior high, my neighbor was mowing empty lots. He had a tractor, and he'd go out and mow, and he would on Saturday and a lot of Sundays he'd ask me. He said, "Hey, you want to come help me out?" And I would get a push mower and a weed eater and get around buildings and different things that the big tractor couldn't get around. And um, man, it was long, hard work. And I was 13. He paid me $50 a day. Like that was so in a weekend I could make $100. And I was like, I was 13. Like, well, I ain't having bills. I didn't have any responsibilities, and so that was a significant income, and it gave me this freedom um, through work and making that money. I just learned I really like that freedom that hard work brought, and and was successful there. I mean, hey, you're good at this. I remember as I got a little older and got in high school, I had more things competing for my time, and ended up starting my own lawn mowing business. And my neighbor, he'd call and say, "Hey, do you want to help me out this weekend?" And I remember the first time I told him no. He said, "Well," I said, I'll pay you $100 instead of 50. And I was like, "I'll be there." And so and ultimately, it wasn't necessarily out of this pursuit of greed or anything, but it was just freedom that money gave you to do to get you what you at that time what I wanted. My needs were taken care of by my parents, um, and then um, as I got through school, that hard work didn't apply near as much to my studies at school. I found that a lot harder, and really liked discipline there. But once I got out of school, I got in a position where I was working as a consultant, basically paid by the hour or by the day. And so if I didn't work, I didn't get paid. The more I worked, the more I got paid. And so I remember starting out that first year, I think I made $60,000 or something my first year out of school doing consulting work. And I was like, I could probably do better somewhere else, but I see the potential to work and make money. And that turned into, uh, it really turned into an obsession through work. It wasn't too bad when I was single and alone, but after I got married, and especially after I had children, man, I remember I'd work 100 hours a week pretty easy. Like uh, it was normal. And so this gift of work for me uh, turned from this freedom giving thing ultimately to a prison. Um, and I remember I was working before I started H&J, and I was working through another consulting firm. Um, I'd work 100 hours a week for a month, and I'd turn in my time one time a month. And so I'd go and it'd take me a couple hours to write down all my time, the hours I worked, the days I worked, and get it turned in. I'd get to the bottom of it, and it was I'd make as much in a month as people would make in a year. And I'd be like, this is beyond my wildest imagination of what I thought I could do, I could work and do. But I got to the end of that year and I quit. I quit that position. I quit that job, and that's when we started H&J. And a part of that was because I didn't. It was part of that lifestyle. I was burnt out. I needed something different and something new, but I didn't change. My daughter was born that year. Um, my wife was 9 months pregnant when we started H&J. Oil was $20, and I thought the only thing I had to um, pick myself up by the bootstraps. I had to just do whatever it took to be successful in this company and make it possible. And it was all on my own. My I was good at working. I'd always been successful. I was gifted at it, and ultimately liked it. Um, but this, I had a 3-year-old, a 4-year-old at home, a newborn. My wife started doing all of our accounting for this, and just threw all that on her and had these blinders on of just going, hey, I'm making it happen. I am doing it. It is on me, and that became a way of life in a prison, and probably something I still struggle with, to be honest. I have different boundaries today than I once did, but it's still a place to find. You talk about a balanced life, and hey, where you find balance, and it's. I think it's ultimately living out in your core beliefs and just filtering it through that. So seeing work as a gift is once again a submission to God and obedience to go, hey God, you have given me this work, and you have gifted me and given me certain talents to do this work. My goal is not to earn money to gain my own freedom, which there's proverbs that talk about such things. It says, "Man, a man who doesn't work shouldn't eat."
Yeah.
And so we're called to work and to give our best to God. So what does that mean, to give our best and work for God? It's it's this idea that I work in my Father's business.
Mm.
This is my Father's business, and over the last few years, it's really been an act of surrender. So, it's like, hey, where have I not surrendered to God? And it's like, you're holding on pretty tight to that work stuff and that money stuff.
Mm.
And over this last year, especially, has just been an act of letting go of that control. Saying, all right, God, you know best. You're leading and I'm following. And so work is a gift, is living that out in our work and not going, hey, well, I have got to go make it happen. It's on my shoulders. It's my responsibility. That's not what God says. God says, hey, I provide for the birds of the air and for the grass in the fields. How much more will I provide for you?
Mm.
And so, um, uh, and it's a difficult, I don't have the right point of view on this yet. I know I don't, because well, work's still stressful at times. I feel like a gift. It's not, and I get challenged on where to, how to do something to the best of my ability and honor God and put the right boundaries around it. But just going, hey, God gave this to you. Honor Him with it. Don't. Don't make work an idol. Work was an idol for me. It became an idol for me, and it wasn't necessarily the money. The money was kind of a way of keeping track of how well I was doing in my work. That was my measure of how good my work was. It was my worth. My worth was in my work,
Right.
and I could measure it by the dollars that I made. And getting the end of that year, where I just probably worked, 3 people, the equivalent of what 3 people typically work. at a 40-hour work week or something, and just are 2 or 3 people and just going, that's not here. If that's where I find my worth, it's not worth it. I'm not worth it. It's not worth this. What is at the same time, it did put me in a position to be able to start a company and be able to survive some lean times with $20 oil and provide for my family. So, despite me not honoring God with my work, He blessed me through it. And so it's learning for me. It's learning to see work as a gift, but that's and so what I was missing was sacred rest. God created the universe. God worked, right? Like He worked, and He put us in the garden to work. And then after Adam and Eve and after the fall of man and ate of the apple tree, He said, man, the ground that you work will be cursed. And it's like, dang it. I hate sin. Like I love work, but I hate the sin. I hate the thorns and the thistles that grow up that make this feel like work. Like when we think of work and like, I have this kind of dread for it, but it's, man, there's something amazing when things go well, when things go and things come together, a plan come together with success, or you get through some difficult times and it's like, and you get to the other side of it and you see the actual results of your labor and the fruit of your labor, and not all the thorns and thistles. It's just, I don't know, it does something to me in my soul. Like God just,
Yeah.
He's put that drive and that desire very strongly inside of me. And so learning, so God did that, but He also said, hey, I created this day for you, a day of rest. Work 6 days, rest on the seventh. Work 6 days, rest on the seventh. And so, I worked 7 days, 7 days, 7 days, didn't stop, and didn't stop to rest. And even when you rest, if you're not
really
working, are you
resting?
resting?
Yeah.
And so that really, work can't be a gift if you deny the Sabbath, if you deny that sacred rest. Like
Right.
it's not going to be.
Right.
Because those are designed to go hand in hand and create that balance that we seek.
Right. What's interesting too is that with just the phrase "work is a gift," assumes that someone gave the gift, that there's a giver. But the way that you were framing it is that work is the giver. It's giving you worth, or it's giving you accomplishment, or whether it's money or just pride and that sort of thing. But it's that switch to say that work is a gift, and that it is rewarding in and of itself, but it comes from God, and that it's we're called to do all things as unto God. And do you think that there's quite a relationship with sacred rest and work, but when it comes to actually the business and stuff like that, do you think that boils down to honoring God with your work? Is that in the motives, in practices? How do you see that play out?
Well, first, Jesus is King, and you got to start there, and the people matter, and then work can be a gift, but without those have to come first for work to be a gift. If otherwise, I don't think it can be. It will be full of worldly and fleshly things that produce bad fruit.
Lack of integrity.
Yes, yeah. It's just like, hey, I mean, you got this. Well, business is business, and it's. I mean, I think there's plenty of followers of Christ who may even hold such a paradigm. So that's business. That's not personal. That's just business. And it's like, are we doing life together? Like for
felt personal.
Yeah, yeah. It's and so I mean, I think that's a terrible paradigm. I look in the What really, from a work standpoint, and uh, uh, for me, work being a gift has been, I believe without a doubt, the Lord gifted me particularly in the areas of business and of hard work. Um, and I saw how when I turned that into an idol, um, something, it's funny. I thought I was idols. I go, hey, I would start reading in the Old Testament about idols. Like these idiots, they make things with their like out of wood and stone, and they made them with their own hands, and they put them up, and they worshipped them. Like that is,
It
I
sounds
don't.
stupid.
It does. I like it doesn't. I don't see a whole lot of that in our culture. Um, but then again, the Holy Spirit once again abruptly goes, uh, your work, the stuff you do with your own hands, you're putting it up on a shelf and you're worshiping it. And I go, it's no different.
That's all you think about.
And yeah, it's no different. You think the things that you built with your own hands are going to give you something, back to, uh,
Whether that's security
yeah,
or self-worth or anything, really.
yes, and so it's like it's this thing you built with your own hands is going to be able to do that, and it's like, and it was like, oh, okay,
I'm stupid.
yeah, yeah, I was like, oh man, I can't tell you how many times I've reading through the Old Testament that I've thought that about the Israelites or the Jews or the people, and just go all of a sudden, it's just like looking in a mirror and going, oh, I'm wearing that. Like that shoe fits, unfortunately. And so from that and create an idol, I see it. I don't know the types of struggles I've had, and I see others doing the same thing. I'm like, man, I want to reach down and pull them out of that pit of despair. I've been there. I know what the fruit of that labor is. I know what it could be when it's put in its right place, as work is a gift. And so, I mean, I've been there, been like, hey, I don't want to turn down work because I don't know if they're going to call me back.
Yeah.
I don't have a salary. I don't get a regular paycheck. And if I don't say yes, even though I've worked for the last 2 months straight, and when they ask me if I want to pick up the slack or, take on some extra work, I don't know when the time of famine's going to come. We're in a time of abundance, and the oil industry has been so cyclical. It's like, hey, when things are good, get all you can. When things are bad, then you'll have a nest egg for when things are bad. But it's a bad paradigm. God provides for you when things are good, and God provides for you when things are bad. And so you don't have to do that. You do not have to surrender your life to your work. How many divorces have you gone through? How many, what other pain in your life is it causing you? You go to work to make all this money. For what? You're at work all the time. You're not enjoying it. You're not doing anything. Your wife and your kids might be enjoying it. It's a poor substitute for your own presence. And the part of the people in your life that, man, God appointed those people to you and not anyone else. And so just because you give them things isn't a replacement for giving of yourself. Um, and so through all that, it's just like, man, how do we put work in its right place? In this industry, how do we get people to quit asking others to surrender their lives to their job? How do we not hold it against someone when they say, hey, I actually have a wife and a family at home, and I really need to get to that? When does that become more important than the work?